So sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy. Sweet, yeah, I need it from you. Got my hands all on you, sweet. Everything I want is sugar like yes, please. Love is like candy.
Episode of the Let's Talk Melbourne podcast, where I am having a conversation with few of my favorite people around the world who are the most informed voices on cinema, and I'm really, really happy that they have agreed to come on this special episode. We are counting down the top 10 movie performances of 2024, and I was particularly interested to invite these three eminent people because it's the year end, everyone's putting out their list. Fatigue will kick in, groupthink will kick in, and everyone will complain about how Jigra is the best movie of the year, and we failed as an audience. So, to bring new perspective and new thought leadership into this conversation and discourse, I have three awesome guests. May I request each one of you to introduce yourself, if that's okay? We got two recurring podcast guests and one brand new one. So we'll start with you, Leah. If you don't mind, can you introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Hi everyone, this is Leha Salam. Salam the Batman on Twitter. You might know me from my various annoying appearances on Manish's Bollywood Drafts podcast and various other podcast appearances. I also write on film for a number of platforms and am generally annoying about the movies on various media. And I'm very, very excited to be here. Vic and I have been talking for a really long time, and we did the Sridevi podcast, Sridevi Bollywood Drafts together recently. So very happy to be here. Salan the Batman on Twitter, the Salamander Chicago on Instagram, and Leha by the Lake on Letterboxd.
Awesome. And next we've got Silam, who's recurring, and I still cannot. If those people who have messaged me asking me to explain the tweet of Silam's on Tabah Ho Gaye, I still cannot. If you haven't got it, I'm sorry, guys. Please direct your inquiries to Salam. He's on Twitter. Salam, please introduce yourself or
I don't
reintroduce
know what
yourself to our audience.
I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what you're talking about the tabahoge.
Yes, you
What's
do.
that? Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Silam. I Thanks Vic again for having me on your podcast. It was great fun to join the Aishwarya Rai special podcast, and yeah, very happy to be here, especially with Manish and Leha, two of my favorite people on the internet. So yeah, I've been on Manish's podcast before for the Sanjay Leela Bhansali draft episode. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here talking about the movies with all of you. And my Twitter handle is Silam Siva. Yeah, very happy
Thank
to be
you.
here.
Well, we're happy to have you anytime. And now we've got Manish, who recently, oh, but he's dropping episodes right, left, and center on Bollywood Drafts. Manish, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manish Mathur. Yes, I host a podcast called Bollywood Drafts, which is where I bring together people to rank movies based on a category. All three of you have been on the podcast, and it's a lot of fun, a lot of debate, a lot of arguing and gameplay and vetoes and such. So it's a lot of fun. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Vertigay314, and also follow the podcast at Bollywood Drafts on Twitter. It can be found pretty much on every major podcast platform.
Thanks. I will share all the socials and where you can find the podcast and Twitter and Letterbox as well, because you should read. I think all three of you write really, really well reviews. So I will try and put all of those into my episode notes on Spotify and YouTube. All right. So before we kick off with our top 10 movie performances of the year, general thoughts on 2024 from your each one of you, how you thought the movies went, any big hits, disappointments? generally, how is everyone feeling about cinema, state of cinema in 2024? Anyone can go
Yeah,
first.
I'll start.
Yeah.
I think the what I've been realizing is that 2023 last year was so strong. Like you had so many just like amazing, groundbreaking movies that came out last year that 2024 I'm struggling a little bit of finding of like reaching that high again. But I mean there have been a lot of movies that I've enjoyed that we'll get into this year. Uh, and I think I haven't really been catching up too much with like movies that have come out in the last couple of weeks just because of work and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot to enjoy this year, and I feel that it'll be interesting to see where everyone's top 10 lists go or where the awards goes. And Yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to talk about movies, so I'm glad to be here.
And we are glad to hear from you. Salam, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I agree with Manish. Last year was such a strong year, especially with the Barbenheimer phenomenon. Um, yeah, and this year there have been a lot of great movies, but I don't think it has reached the that kind of high that we saw last year. Like last year was phenomenal. We had Barbie, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, Anatomy of a Fall. Amazing movies. This year we have had so many great movies and some very promising movies coming out in the next few weeks, I think. So it's been pretty good year, but yeah, comparatively, it's not as great as last year, I would say.
Leha?
It's an interesting year, right? Because it's hard not to think of the movies through the lens of what's happening politically and so on, especially with Western films. And I think a lot of prognosticators, critics, and so on are doing that already with things like Wicked. And I mean, a lot of the movies lend themselves very sort of clearly and explicitly to those readings as well. In terms of Bollywood movies, I think there's definitely been kind of a dip. You don't have that kind of effusive peak of something like Rocky or Rani, at least for our kind of audience. At least I think I think a lot of the film going audience now is looking for something like Pushpa 2, which of course has had this barnstorming opening. So that kind of film is still coming out. Singam again, things like those have come out this year too. But I don't think we've had those. I don't know if we've had those like I don't know, moments, capital M moments in Bollywood films at least. In terms of other cinema, I think the nice thing about not having this one dominant sort of story like Barbenheimer, even though they've tried to make like Glickade and things like that happen, is that we're talking about lots of different kinds of films and we're casting around for lots of different kinds of narratives, which I think is interesting. um, but I think another thing it brings up is distribution. Like, who's watching the films, right? Like, who's talking about what? How are they talking about it? A lot of my friends who are talking about a lot of the buzziest films have press passes or live in New York
Yes.
and are
Mm.
able to go to the festivals, or live in Toronto and are able to go to the festivals. Like, I didn't get, I live in Chicago and I haven't seen like Sing Sing, right? And that came out earlier this year, I think. And things like that, right? So I think that's another question where you have these big movies that take over the conversation, and which is why when they have some degree of critical credibility as well, like Wicked, um, stan culture buoys them to the top of the conversation. And then all of these other movies, people are like, these movies don't exist. Though for another part of the movie going audience, those are the movies that exist the most. So that itself, we're moving further and further away from the monoculture in a way, and I think that itself is a very interesting conversation this year when we're talking about the movies.
I think that's a very important point about distribution because here in Australia, movies don't come out till like after the Oscar nominations. We don't even see it during the year they're released. Like, for example, I'm watching Ruthless today after this podcast because, and it still hasn't opened. It's part of a festival, so I think that's a very important point. People don't have access to movies unless they got wide distribution across their locations. One thing which I'm really curious to ask all three of you, particularly in regards to Bollywood, two movies that I really, really championed this year are Stree 2 and Bhool Bhulaiya 3. Now, by all means, I would not put the case that they are great movies. Of course, we know they are, dependably good, entertaining. But I thought these two movies did something for the Indian audience, which is not the multiplex audience, but the larger majority of the Indian population who actually went to see these movies. It informed them and communicated to them in a manner that most movies fail to do these days. Bhool Bhulaiya 3 particularly spoke, and I can give you an example. Like my family is in India, and one of the watchmen in the building, he watched Bhool Bhulaiya 3, and he told my sister that he understood the significance of you know trans or other people and how they feel like. And although that movie doesn't do a good job of necessarily communicating that message, but to an audience like who doesn't understand things like consent and who doesn't understand things like equal gender and all those sorts of things, I think the movie did an effective job of communicating to them. I mean, that's how I feel, and that's why I like to champion those two movies particularly. But keen to know your thoughts on that. Leah, do you want to go
Yeah,
first?
I mean, I loved Bhool Bhulaiya 3. I thought it was great. I always call Anis Bazmi my mamu because I'm such a fan. I think
Of course you
Drake,
do.
yeah, Drake and I are the only two people who've watched Mubaraka more than once.
I
So,
I, I did watch that movie. It's like a few months ago, and it was fun.
It's
isn't it
funny.
fun?
That's a
Oh
funny
my God,
movie.
everyone
It is
should watch
fun.
Mubaraka. It's
No,
so
it's a good
good.
Yeah,
movie.
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, seminal Indian Hindi language motion picture Mubaraka, 2017. But anyway, so I think Anis Bazmi really has a handle on making um, a Bollywood, like a mainstream Bollywood picture, um, in a way, like in that kind of old fashioned way, that a lot of directors don't anymore. Like he really is taking that money and saying, we're going to make a film. We're going to give the audience what they're here for. Because he was making films at a time where, he was writing scripts for four, five, six, seven David Dhawan films at once. And,
Yeah.
films, Govinda was running from like one set to another to another, for those times. And you had to make the films entertaining, right? Like they didn't
Correct.
have to be
Yeah.
perfect, but they had to be entertaining. And it wasn't a time where you could get away with just the opening. Like an opening didn't make a film a hit. A film had to have legs. So if you notice, both the Anis Bazmi Bhool Bhulayas have had legs. The films have lasted in the theaters because they've had a repeat audience. And that speaks to Anis Bazmi's ability to make a film that people will keep going back to, because that's the kind of film he makes. Compare that to someone like Rohit Shetty, who clearly makes a film purely for the opening weekend, where he's like, we're going to
Yeah.
put all of these things in there. And that's, it's all about. There's a cheap cynicism to that kind of filmmaking, and it's based on whatever kind of trick is working. So it's like South me HL, right? It's working in the South now. We'll put this in, jingoism. We'll put this in. But Anis Basmi clearly is like, we like this. I like this. I like these kinds of songs. I like big heroines. I like dance numbers. We're gonna use this. So you have to like something. You have to enjoy something yourself to make a fun picture. And I think Anis Basmi gets that, and I think that's why that film is so fun. And I do agree. I think Madhuri, has made all of these things that have touched upon LGBTQ allyship or being in that community in some way in her career since she's come back, whether it's Majama, whether it's Derishkia, whether it's the Fame Game. But this probably has the largest viewership. It's probably the
Yeah.
most kind of imperfect representation, but it's the thing that most people, like the highest number of people have gone and seen, and that's meaningful. It's not perfect, I agree, but to me it felt sweet. Like I wasn't sitting there, like I saw some tweet that was like, oh, this set back trans represent. I was like, no, it didn't. This was sweet. It's like
No, it didn't. No.
a gender non-conforming sibling who was persecuted because they were gender non-conforming, and this is something that happens even today, and it means something for two sisters played by two of the most acclaimed actresses in Hindi cinema to say, hey, we accept you and people should have accepted you. And it's this beautiful moment that happens after this big Siti Maru kind of a Bollywood moment with the dance number and all of that. Kartik can't dance, but that's a different matter. But yeah, like I think that's very satisfying. And with 3 2, I think again, like just it's a fun movie. It's not as good as the first one. It's very bloated. You can definitely feel the kind of curse of the sequel in a way. But what I
Yes,
think
yeah.
3 2 gets right is it has the best song of the year in it. Aaj Ki Raat is easily the best song of the year in any language, according to me. So just the fact that they were like, we're gonna put we have Tamanna and we have this really good song and we're gonna do it well, tells me that there were good intentions at work there. They weren't lazy. They weren't like, we're just gonna have like Nora Fatehi sort of gyrate and we're gonna put a static camera there and we're gonna
Exactly.
have a
Yeah.
bunch of like, cuts. So that tells me that they were out there to make an entertaining film. So that itself, in these craven times, like you take what you can get.
Oh, a hundred
From
percent, absolutely. And I love the fact it's for Bhool Bhulaiyaa 3, it normalizes and introduces the conversations about non-conforming gender to a very mainstream Indian population. So I think that was good. Salam, Manish, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with what what Leha said. I think going back to Barbie and Rocky Irani from last year, I remember those movies got some criticism and about those feeling very much like feminism 101. And I mean, I agree to that in some point, but I also feel that I think it's worth having these very foundational ideas in these big movies that are being seen by millions and millions of people, so that, as you're saying, these conversations can start, and so that there's a place for people to go to where they want to see some kind of representation or to have some building blocks of developing a more thoughtful perspective on the world. And sometimes it's helpful to remember that there are a lot of people who are very offline. Many of us here are very online and are a part of conversations that sound totally crazy. When sometimes I tell my boyfriend about the discourses that are happening on Twitter or such, he's like, you sound like you're talking a different language, like none of this is anything that anyone has ever thought about or thought to say. And I'm like, well, this is what's happening on Twitter or on Reddit or any of these apps. So, but for him, like watching something like Barbie, or if I were to show him, Street 2 or Boobalaya 3, um, I think these will be places where, we can start to touch upon things and really, really start the conversation. And I also think, movies are for entertainment, so if we can have a few moments of kind of, progressive conversation foundations, being built in a big blockbuster with, beautiful songs and lots of actresses and sets and such, I think that is, that's not a bad thing in my opinion.
Awesome. Salam, thoughts?
yeah, totally agree with both of them. And speaking of these two films, Street 2 and Bulbulaya 3, these films know their audience. That's why such messages were, um, you know, added in the movie in such a way so that it would be more digestible for the common audience, who might not have had these moments of realizations about acceptance of trans people or queer people and things like that. Especially with Bulbulaya 3, if you watch, you clearly know what type of audience this movie is for. If As opposed to something like another movie about trans character, Emilia Perez, if you all have watched it, I don't know who that movie is for. Of course, it tells an important story, but who is this movie for? It has a good story, it has some decent performances, but I don't know who should be watching and realizing that we should be more accepting towards trans people and queer people. So yeah, Bulbulaya 3, I didn't like it as much as Leha or Manish did, but yeah, it's a great fun whenever uh, the moments that worked, they worked very well, and the messaging at the end was delivered in a good way. But of course, it would have been great if the rest of the movie or the narrative was much more compelling. But at the end of the day, it's not a bad movie, and it definitely starts conversations like all of you have mentioned, and in that way, it's important. It said what it needed to say in a decent way. So I have no objection in these films existing, and there should be more films like this.
Agree. There should be more movies like this. Now, we'll jump into listing. I just wanted to share a few messages I got from my friends on Silam, the episode you did on Aishwarya. And my friend who lives in Brisbane, in Australia, messaged me saying, looks like he loves Aishwarya more than Abhishek Bachchan, Salman Khan, and Vivek Oberoi. Good on him. How does that make you feel when someone listens says this about you?
I mean, uh, I don't know. It's a nice thing to hear. It's a nice thing to hear. But yeah,
Salam
I
is
love
like,
her.
what?
What can I
Isn't
say?
that hard?
What?
Sorry, Leah?
I said, Salam is like, what? As if that's hard?
I mean that. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, she's my
And
queen. What
when
can I say?
yeah, oh, absolutely. She's a goddess. Manish, I recommended Bollywood Drafts to a friend of mine in Sydney, and he enjoyed he's not listened to the part two of Sri Devi, but part one, and he messaged saying, although the game playing of this podcast is fun, what I appreciate most about Manish's podcast is that even when people are disagreeing with each other, they're at least listening to each other, and that's more than what we can ask for.
Oh, that's very sweet. I
How does
appreciate
that?
that. Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
What's
that.
the reaction?
I think that's the fun of the podcast. Like I know the podcast is, designed for people to, disagree and debate and stuff. But I think I feel like I have been really lucky in that all my guests have been very like, you know, very just like in it for the fun of it and not, getting very, not getting very like, angry or anything when things go a certain way. So I think that's really sweet to hear. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Now, Leha, I did my research on you, and you have said some these are incredibly funny things. I'm just going to read few of the things that I love the most that you have said. On the Khandan podcast, when you went to speak about Rocky and Rani, you said, and I quote, "Let movie stars be movie stars. Not everyone needs to be Om Puri," which I thought was hilarious. On Bollywood Ladies discussing Rekha, you said Rekha is not gratification, Rekha is yearning. On Manish's podcast, I think, I don't know which episode, but on discussing Kal Ho Na Ho, You said Kal Ho Na Ho is a Frank Capra movie directed by a gay man. And my absolute favorite is for the movie Animal, you said Animal is a movie about a son wanting his father to fuck him bad. I thought these are just amazing, amazing observations. Now, on your letterbox, I'm just going to quote a review you wrote of one of my favorite movies of the year, Honora, and I'm quoting here. The easy, rowdy humor, the desperate glamour of neon lace, the merciless blue light of the late evenings and crack of dawns, the tragic comedy of helplessness at the peak of one's youth and beauty. God, how vivid with vulgar, thoughtful life this full chested cry laugh of a movie makes all of it. This is just exquisite writing, but also these are not, I guess, musings or thought bubbles that just pop up in people's mind. There's obviously a lot of curation going in your subconscious, I'm assuming, when you're processing or consuming art. How do you come to these conclusions? How do you approach art? I'm very curious to know, especially this review of Honora that you wrote. The thing that it didn't strike to me at all was the point you make about it is the peak of one's youth and beauty. And it is a significant more point in time of that character's life. And that just lost on me. And I only realized it when I read this review. So, my question to you, Leha, is how are you funny? And also, how do you approach art and then, inform others about it?
Honestly, I'm always trying to make myself laugh. That's it. I think if I can make myself laugh, I'm happy. And like incidentally, sometimes other people laugh as well. But my whole purpose in life, everything I do is for the plot, everything I do is for the joke. That's like most of my romantic life has been that. The way I've dealt with my parents throughout my childhood has been that that's like not ended well for me often. But I think I want to amuse myself, and I want to like be like, oh my god, that's so interesting to myself. So oftentimes, I'll like work away at a thing, and I'll just kind of chip away at something till it's like really amusing to myself. And sometimes it's amusing to other people as well, and that's how it goes. I'm my favorite audience to sort of misquote Miss Karina Kapoor.
I think there's more thought and care in that, but humor is a great, great way of approaching art and life. All right. We'll get started to it. So we are here to list our top 10 favorite movie performances of the year. Now, these movies can be in any language as long as they're released in 2024. They can be on the list. And the way we go is each one of us we do from 10 to 1. And if you can say your favorite movie performance and why they rank in your list, would be really, really good. So audience can understand and check out the movies and those performances if they haven't. So we'll start with you, Manish. What's on your number 10 best movie performance of the year?
Oh wow, I did not rank. But I'm going to put let's see. I'm gonna put Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande just as a duo for Wicked. And I did not really go into Wicked being all that excited about it. I mean, kind of a little bit. Having heard a lot of people say that they enjoyed the film, I was getting more excited. But this is not a movie that I was anticipating at all. But my mom and I went to go see it during the Thanksgiving holiday, and we both just really enjoyed it. And I think the two of them together, their chemistry is really great. Of course, their musical performances are just, out of this world. I feel like Ariana Grande was basically planning to play Glinda for her entire life. Um, and Cynthia Erivo, of course, just blows the house down. And I think just they are so watchable together, both in their comedic scenes and in their dramatic scenes. So it was hard for me to pick between the two, but I think together they don't work without the other. So that's my number 10.
Cool. Salam, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I also didn't rank the performances. I just listed 10 performances. that I found very compelling this year. But at number 10, I would put Daniel Zovato from Woman of the Hour. It's a movie that was released in October. It's on Netflix, directed by Anna Kendrick. So this movie talks about a true story, how where a serial killer went on to a dating game on national television, and then he won a dating chance with this woman, Cheryl Bradshaw, I think. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's Anna Kendrick's first movie as a director, a solid directorial debut. But this performance by Daniel Zovato is terrifying. The movie tells a true story about this women that were attacked or killed by the serial killer. However, in a non-traditional way. Usually, we'll get into the journey of the serial killer, so to speak, like how did he end up here? But this movie tells the story from the women's point of view, which was very interesting. Nevertheless, this guy Daniel, he gave a terrifying performance. He looks like such a sweet guy, but the things that he says in the movie, his gestures, uh, that's what this one particular scene in the parking lot with him and Anna Kendrick, who also plays the lead in the movie, is the scariest scene of the year for me. So yeah, that's a movie I think that's a movie and a performance that I think people should check out.
I'm certainly going to because I haven't watched that movie, I have to admit. But after listening to you, I'm really, really curious to go watch that. Leha, what do you have for us?
So I'm gonna go with a pretty expected pick and go with Kani Kusrati for All We Imagine Is Light. I did not know her work very well before this because I'm not super familiar with contemporary Malayali cinema. So I hadn't watched a lot of her films, but she's been active for quite a while now. She's not like this is not like a breakthrough performance for her, at least in Indian cinema. So she's kind of a veteran. But for me, she was this revelation. First of all, she's stunning. She looks kind of like a combination of Lakshmi Menon and Anu Agarwal. Her face is insane. So just all that
Yes, Anu Agarwal. Yes, yes.
right
Sorry.
so like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
just her face is the whole film, if you've seen it, the Bombay parts of the film are shot mostly at night, and there's all this gorgeous kind of like cinematography that uses a lot of these like blue toned shadows. It's very reminiscent of moonlight, and her faces has makes such interesting like grotto like effects of those shadows. So just her bone structure is doing incredible acting, honestly. But other than that, she doesn't have a lot of lines, but um, the performance itself feels so. She's playing a good person, right? And people often find good person performances really boring. The more sort of they gravitate towards the performance of the more spicier, the more namkeen person, the person who does things, who fucks shit up and so on. Can I say that? Sorry. You can
Yeah,
bleep
yeah,
me
you can swear, absolutely.
but she's playing the more kind of temperate, the quieter, the person who's like more kind of like she does the right thing. She always does the right thing, the moral person. But she lends each of those decisions um, so much like weight and consideration. Like you can see the thinking, but it never feels onerous. It just feels lived. Her body language, just the way she like occupies space, going back to Wicked, whole space.
Holding space.
The way she even takes up space in a frame, and some of the best things in the film. Like I probably wasn't as enamored of the film as its biggest champions, but on a whole, the film is insane. But the way she's blocked in the film and the way she uses the blocking to tell this person's story, it's just really, really good physical screen acting. Even though she's not moving a lot, she's not doing a lot of running around and this and that. A lot of her is sitting, standing, looking, but at the same time, it's really inventive, really attentive physical acting. So yeah, Kaniko in All We Imagine Is Love.
No, that's an exquisite performance. I love, love, love that performance. I have chosen a very left field pick, Katrina Kaif in Merry Christmas. Now, I know Kaif is not a great actor, but what she really does in this movie, because she hasn't been given much dialogue, is uses her face very wisely. Her simple gestures, her simple facial movements, her expressions is so true to the character and such inspired acting. I think she's sublime in this movie. I mean, it's amazing what she comes off with this performance is because there's a little bit of restlessness, eagerness, there's mystery. There's such varied range of emotions that are required for this character, and she is absolutely fantastic in this movie. So good on her. I wish she does more such movies like this with less dialogue. She will be very, very an effective actor. She would have been perfect in like silent movie era, I imagine, where she can just act without talking. All right, so we'll go in the same order again. Manish, number nine. And if you haven't rated, that's fine. I'm just going through the 10 to 1 so that people can track the
Sure.
numbers here.
Well, I ranked mine during the other segments quickly. So next I have Timothy Chalamet in Dune Part 2. Big fan of the Dune movies. Have seen both of them multiple times. Eagerly awaiting Tabu in the Dune TV show. And I think the reason why, Timothy Chalamet's performance stands out to me is that he's not your typical like franchise leading man, at least looks wise. He's very skinny. He's kind of wiry looking. He doesn't have that, Marvel superhero look to him. And I think that plays really well for him in Dune, where he's kind of this, failing upwards leader that kind of is a leader because he's supposed to be a leader and not because of any of his own merits. And I think that his performance really takes that balance of, of uh, kind of trying to fake being this like, very charismatic leader in the way that he has his speeches and his proclamations. And there's a little bit, I think, in the performance that shows that he doesn't quite believe what he's saying, or he wants to believe it more than he thinks it's actually true. And I think the whole cast of the movie is quite exquisite, especially Austin Butler and Zendaya and Rebecca Ferguson and Javier Bardem. But I think Chalamet for me stands above just because I think he has a really tough role, and I'm a big fan of his in general. Always look forward to his performances, and I found that he carries this 5-hour two-part movie really well, especially in the second part.
No, agree. I think his chemistry with Zendaya, especially in that scene where the two of them are at the against the Vistas, beautiful chemistry. Such charming leads, both of them. Salam, over to you.
Um, at my number nine, I actually put Katrina Kaif in Merry Christmas, and I totally agree
All
with
right, so there
everything
you
that you
go.
say. Yeah, it's one of my favorite performances of the year, and I think in the from the Hindi films that I've seen this year, that's the best um, leading lady performance. So I watched Merry Christmas in both Tamil and Hindi. She's definitely more comfortable in Hindi because that's the language she's more familiar with. But even in Tamil, she was very good. She got the lip syncs perfect and the emotions so good. She had enough level of enigma around her, the character itself, and the way the Katrina plays her. So this is definitely a very different kind of role for her, and she nails it completely, especially in the last scene at the police station.
Yes.
She has absolutely no dialogue, but the way she communicates with her face, her eyes especially, something I've never seen before her doing. And she's been a competent actor for almost entire career, but people don't give her enough credit. But in this film, she definitely nailed the performance and completely owned the film. So Merry Christmas is a Katrina Kaif movie, and I'm really glad that Sri Ram Raghavan saw um, this character in Katrina and gave it to her because she's great.
No, I agree. I think the ending scene is so well directed. The music, the staging, the way the camera moves from
Yeah.
between characters, and her face is just sublime. Absolutely fantastic. Leha, what do you have for us on number nine?
Ooh, at number nine, I think I'm gonna go with Josh O'Connor in Challengers. Um, I think that's just a really fun film. I think for a lot of people in my social circles, that was probably the film they went to. That was the event film. That they went to the theaters for, and they probably watched the most. It was the most memed film of the year, probably. Definitely the film with the most fun soundtrack. And the cast, the main cast of the film definitely works as a group, like as a unit. They all have to have chemistry with each other. They all kind of have to play off of each other. But I think Josh O'Connor is definitely, to me, the most accomplished performance of the three. He's really the one who makes the film kind of work I think it's
I
also because his
think
is the
we've.
most
Oh,
interesting
that's fine.
character on paper, and he understands that. And I think his character is probably the most Luca character. Like I think Luca Guadagnino always has that one character who's who does the things right, who goes
Yeah.
for the things that they want, and in but then at the same time maybe you know who's yearning, the who's kind of like figuring out a balance between going for things and allowing their kind of self-doubt to hold them back. But there's I think Josh O'Connor is very good at that kind of thing, where he's not necessarily playing amoral, but he's playing someone with a complicated morality, and he's making that very appealing and charming. And he's an interesting heartthrob because he is playing a heartthrob in this, and he's very like the camera definitely like objectifies him as Guadagnino's camera always does to his leading men. But at the same time, he's got this kind of like hangdog Jimmy Stewart face, so that with that like really ripped body and all of that, like the sweat dripping off of him and all the homoerotic tension between him and Mike faced. It's interesting because there's so many contrasts and textures, and Josh O'Connor is kind of like the perfect actor to play up those contrasts, I think, because he's hard and soft, he's feminine and masculine, he's sad and he's cheerful. I guess I'm saying he's Irish. I don't know, but yeah, I really loved that performance. I thought it was so funny. I thought it was so charming. I thought it was so rakish, which is not a word you use to describe leading man performances these days. Everyone is so self-serious, and he was really able to find that kind of like that kind of like making fun of himself, laughing at the world, almost Devanand equality to the performance. Like the scene where he's on a date, but he's also like clocking that Zendaya's coming through the lobby, and it's like such a good piece of like comedy. You're like, what is this guy gonna do? But I am a horrible person, so I got it. I was like, oh yeah, I get that. I get that like I get that motivation. You know. Yeah, I loved that performance. I really did. I think he's one of the best actors, but one of the best leading men working today. So Big fan.
Yeah, he's very good. He also did another Italian movie called
La Chimera,
Camaros,
yeah,
if I'm
that's on my
pronouncing it.
list
Yeah,
too.
so good in it. So no, I agree, and actually I agree with your point. Luca Guadagnino has this thing about when he makes movies. There's one character in his movie that is the object of his attention or desire, and he shoots that character particularly well. Like Josh O'Connor is shot amazingly. He looks fantastic. He's got a swagger in his performance that is just unmatched, I feel. All right, so my number nine is another Josh, but Josh Hartnett in Trap. I'm loving the new Josh Hartnett. I mean, ever since Oppenheimer, I think he was so good in that brief scenes in Oppenheimer. But in this movie, he brings the right amount of menace and vulnerability, and somehow that's it. You somehow feel, at least I somehow felt a little bit sympathetic towards him. He's a serial killer. Like, he should have no sympathy for me, but his performance evoked that level of vulnerability and that level of compassion. I mean, compassion is the wrong word, but a certain amount of like, oh my god, I hope he doesn't get caught kind of thing. It's an amazing performance. You could argue the movie's not that great, but when Shyamalan, the director, he's good with actors. He's very, very good. And for me, this he was Josh Hartnett is a wonderful actor. I've always been a fan of his. And yeah, I'm so happy that Trap did so well, and I hope he does more movies. This resurgence of Josh Hartnett is fantastic. All right, number eight, Manish.
My number eight is I have a Dev Patel for Monkey Man. Uh, when I heard that Dev Patel was doing his directorial debut, and then it's going to be like a hardcore action movie, I was a little bit of an eye roll because I was like, Dev Patel, I love him so much. I mean, he's a role model of one of my favorite actors, just incredible guy, I think. But I was like, I don't know if I want to see him kind of do that like action boy thing that feels like every young guy has to do. But I found Monkey Man to be so empathetic and compassionate and just I mean, just like brutal beyond brutal. Like I have a pretty high tolerance for, violence on screen, and even some of the kills in this movie I thought were just like out of just like completely crazy and amazing. I there's a particular one in an elevator or elevator, and there's one in the bathroom that I was just like, I can't believe that like this cute young boy from Slumdog Millionaire and Lion thought of this and directed it and acted it. And I think he brings some of that like kind of schoolboy charm and warmth to this role. Even though he's such a hardened, killer. I mean, he's not doing anything except uphold against injustice and systemic oppression. So uh, that is always something admirable, even if it's in this like action movie. That's very much like a John Wick, Atomic Blonde, that in that style. But yeah, I mean, I loved his performance. I thought it's just so physical and so go for broke, and he really puts himself out there. And yeah, I think he deserves a mention. So that's Dev Patel and Monkey Man.
Awesome. Salam.
So my number eight is actually Josh O'Connor in Challenges. I was debating whether to put him or Zendaya on the list, and ultimately I put him because he definitely gives more layered performance, I think, in the film, and has much more interesting character than Zendaya does. Zendaya is great in the movie, but yeah, Josh O'Connor, he like everything Leha already mentioned. He has this uh, kind of weird charm about this character and the way he plays. Most of the things that he does in the film should be shouldn't make you like him, but I ended up liking him more and more. especially with the scene in the hotel lobby or bar, and the scene outside of the hotel with him and Zendaya, where she says, "You have better shot at with a gun in your mouth" or something like that. Yeah, he plays this character so well, and he allows the camera to objectify him, which is such a nice thing to see, especially in this sexless era of movies. Yeah,
Yes.
I enjoyed his performance a lot, and yeah, he stands out among the three of the leads in the movie. I loved his performance.
Amazing. Leha, number 8 for you.
Ooh, number eight. I I don't know if I'm gonna be seeing the last name right here, but Mark Eidelstein from Honora is my number eight. Um, I hope I said that right, but he is such a fun performance for me. I don't know if this is like just my twink bias, but it was there's this moment in the film where he like does like this kind of like somersault onto the bed like they're about to have sex, I think, for the first time maybe, and he like somersaults onto the bed, and I think he's like already naked or he's taking his sweatpants off and everything's like kind of flopping around, and it's just like such a sublime bit of like comedy and like just giving you the sense of who this person is and who this character is. And I was just like, this kid's never like done a major movie before, like what? Like that is an actor, you know, like that is someone who knows what to do with when the camera is on him, you know. And then I read something about how he did his self tape, like his audition naked, and I was like, yeah, this kid's a genius, you know. And that's what you get the sense of that, because the film's rhythms are very screwball. And when you watch a lot of those like older screwball comedies, you're like, wow, these people suck, like especially like these men often like suck, they're horrible, they're like just pestering these women and making them do things they don't want to do, and like just making their lives hell. And this guy, you know, he's just like not a good guy, and by the end of it you're like, wow, you don't have any spine. And I'm spoiling it for people, go watch Nora. Or you should have, I don't know, if you haven't watched it already, go watch it, mute this part of it, I don't know.
It
But
hasn't come out in Australia, unfortunately, yet. We've only seen it in film festivals, but do watch it. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
go watch it. Come back and listen to this part of the podcast after you've watched it. So yeah, so I think he's not a good guy, but I bought why Annie went with it, not just because of the money thing, but because yeah, it makes sense. He's charismatic, he's fun to be around, he makes life feel light and easy. Like, you know, you quoted that thing I wrote in my letterboxed, and the thing is, it just felt very personal for me, right? Because I've been that girl, you know, I've had those moments in my life. And sometimes you harden yourself against the world, and you're trying to tell yourself not to let your defenses down, but at the same time you're so soft behind all of it, and you're looking for that one place where you can just sort of exhale and be like, maybe this is it, maybe this is it. And it's not the fur coat, or it's not the ring, or it's not the billions, and of course all of those contribute to that illusion that this might be it, this might be the out that I've been looking for. But it's like a feeling of like, I don't know, fun, a feeling that, oh, I can laugh here, you know. A feeling that, oh, the tenor of this moment feels very different from all the other moments in my life. And Mark Eidelstein's performance really kind of captures that, those moments in her life when she's at his house, when she's around him, it feels very different for her than anything else in her life feels for her, because she's been around rich people, she works at a strip club, she's been around people who have which speaks to her. But at the same time, he's playing a deeply damaged guy, you know. He clearly has no say, his parents run his life, he makes none of his own decisions, and you really see that as the movie goes on, that this is really a person with no personhood, Like he has no self to speak of. So both those parts of it, the sparkliness and the lightness and the comedy, but then also like that really compromised personhood, I think he makes those things pop really well on screen. So I really really liked this performance.
He's very, very funny. Very, very funny in this movie. Uh, my number eight is Kristen Stewart in Love, Lies, and Bleeding. I mean, I can watch Kristen Stewart just if she just was eating an apple or drinking water. She's just so good. In this movie, her performance is absolutely stunning. The way she looks at, the way she expresses desire, the way she expresses sexual desire, emotional desire, has got such vivid facial expressions that I just can't even, I have no words to describe her performance in this movie. She has such a cinematic screen presence. Like, she just arrests you the minute she comes on screen. It's impossible to look at anything else. And she's always good with like her facial expressions and gazes and the twitches of her eyes. But in this one, she brings such life to her performance, and the fact that she desires someone and goes after it in the first half of the movie, and the way she does it, man, she's a brilliant actress. I'm a big Stewart fan forever. So now we're getting to number seven. Manish, over to you.
Well, that's a great segue because I have Katie O'Brien from Love Lies Bleeding at number seven, and not to I was kind of debating between the two, or debating between doing another duo, but I'm glad that you gave a shout out to Kristen Stewart because I wanted to give a shout out to Katie O'Brien in the same film because again the physicality of it and the rage and the pain and just the sequence when she goes to the competition and has that breakdown is just incredible. And you rarely ever see an ambition kind of this guttural, especially with women characters. And so I find that Katie O'Brien in Love Lies Bleeding just has this, just this, like, she feels like someone that just can't, that just like can't contain herself and is just like bursting uh, to kind of get out there and to express or to do something. Like she just is like trapped in her own body and is just clawing herself out. And I think this movie is like romantic, it's absurd, it's scary, it's gritty.
Sexy.
There's just so much going for it, and I think it's a really exceptional film. And I think Katie O'Brien's is just she's just really exceptional in Love Lies Bleeding. So happy to see both of them on this list here.
Oh, absolutely. I think they're both fantastic. Salam, your turn.
So for my number seven, I'm going to put hmm, I'm going to put Prithviraj from this Malayalam movie called Adu Jeevitam, or The Goat Life. Um, it's a it's a story about survival, how this man goes from India to uh, Saudi Arabia, but then he's conned into being like a slave in the desert, and it's a very physical performance. It's a go for broke kind of performance, which the kinds that we've seen over and over in survival dramas. But here he has such vulnerability in the movie, in the way he plays the character, uh, where he doesn't get like become a hardened person while he's being kept as a slave and trying to escape, but he continues to be vulnerable throughout the movie, and he has so many moments where he has breakdowns, but Those moments in this kind of film can definitely go over the top, or you can see the actor trying to give like capital P performance. But here he does it with so much empathy for his character, and he's so grounded the way he plays the character, and it's a very just a towering performance. It's the movie is based on a novel, I think, which I've not read, and a lot of people criticized on the movie adaptation. However, when I watched the movie, I loved it. It has great score by A.R. Rahman and some lovely scenes with his female co-star Amala Paul in like the flashback. And Prithviraj hits every note of this character and the way he plays the man without making him look like he's craving for our sympathy. He just tells this story of this man in a very genuine way, in so much empathy, and it's just a towering performance. And yeah, I think a lot of people should seek this movie and performance out and should watch it.
I haven't seen that. I'm now curious to see. You're adding on my viewing list, Salam, with your picks. Leha, what do you have for us at number seven?
Um, at number seven, I am gonna go with um Margaret Qualley from The Substance. So I really like this performance because I think it's so funny. Um, I just had such a good time with it. I know that Demi Moore is kind of the performance in the film. She has the part, right? But Margaret Qualley is just like so hilarious in this film. Like the little things she does with her face. First of all, she I know that it kind of implicates me in what the film is trying to say. When I say this, she looks so hot in this film.
She does. Sue.
Totally,
Yes.
she does.
Like every like close up on like her butt or whatever, I was just like, that like this, like I'm walking out of this and going straight to the gym, and that is like not the message I'm supposed to take, but I'm taking it. So you know like what are you gonna do? That's how media works. But she's like she plays like the bitchy kind of like tones of it. She doesn't go too far, and this is a film that goes too far on every front. There's like a precision to the way she does
Okay.
it. She doesn't go too far, and this is a film that goes too far on every front. Like its too farness is baked into it. It's a feature, right? It's not a bug. But with Margaret Qualley, she doesn't really like go full kind of death becomes her. She's not giving that. She's really kind of measuring it out um in a way that almost feels, I don't know, I want to say, um there's like a specific kind of from when we were growing up, there'd be like these like Cartoon Network cartoons, like Powerpuff Girls and things like that, where they were like not out there, and they weren't like Nickelodeon out there, but they had this kind of like this kind of almost like creepy grown-upness to them, but like they were still kids cartoons, and they'd invoke these like grown-up older genres like noir and things like that. So they had this like texture to them, but they were cartoons. And I feel like Margaret Qualley's performance has that like quality of like things just reflecting on themselves, like one thing reflecting on the other, on the other, on the other. So I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was so funny and so brazen, and so hot. Like the performance itself was so hot, like just every like little lick lip she did, and every little hair flip, and all of it, like the first kind of like her debut workout, like pump it up performance. It's like it's like a work of art, because like she's doing so much. She's like completely destroying Elizabeth Sparkle's confidence. She's establishing this new person. She's telling you that this is what we're looking for, right? Like this is what the audience is looking for. And then because we're looking at it like that, she's like, well, isn't the filmmaker right? Aren't we right? Isn't this
Yeah.
what you're looking for? Aren't you drooling right now? And she's like, the way she like gets all of, like, it's such a complicated thing to do, and she's doing all of it while making it light and funny and sexy. Like, that's a movie star, you know. And we've talked about, I think, like, Stilam brought up Poor Things earlier, and I think she was in Yorgos Lanthimos' other film this year too, right? Kinds of Kindness. So she's like building this really interesting body of work. And it is, you would think that because she looks like this very kind of, she's an ingenue with that kind of like little baby angel face, that she'd read a certain way. But no, she's such an interesting, dangerous performer, with really clever comedic instincts. And I'm very excited to see what she does next.
Oh no, agree. I think that scene where she's losing her teeth and Dennis Quaid's character is telling her to smile. The stealth which she looks at him as well is just fantastic. All right, on my number seven, I have Parineeti Chopra in Amar Singh Chamkila. And I know Parineeti doesn't get a lot of. She did get initially in the first phase of her career a lot of love and appreciation for being a good actor, but then something happened and, the Nepo babies took over. But in this movie, there are scenes and there are moments where she's so precise. Like before she's going to perform, she's standing and she's tapping her thighs and she's, thinking through that she's to go and perform. It's like she's remembering her lines. So specific. I really liked her in this movie. She was very good. Diljit obviously, is fantastic. He's a brilliant actor. But to see Parineeti come back on screen and in a good role, even with less screen time, and just own it is something I am here for. And I hope she does more movies as well. And she's really underrated. I thought she deserved a lot more appreciation for this performance. Yeah, I quite enjoy Parineeti in this movie. All right. Number six, Manish.
Um, because you and I are connected because I have Diljit Dosanjh next for Amar Singh Chamkila. So I'm glad you gave Paniti a shout out as well. This movie took me by surprise. I was not anticipating it to be as good as it was, just judging from my hot and cold reaction to Imtiaz Ali's films, and sort of my lack of awareness of Jamkila as a public figure. I did not know who he was, to be honest. Not familiar with his music, having not come from Punjab. Actually, I was just talking about this because I did a Netflix episode of my podcast. Literally recorded it this afternoon, earlier today. And I think Diljit Dosanjh's performance really blew me away. He has such a sincerity and such a but he has such an edge to him, and I really have enjoyed a lot of his movies that he has done, especially Utta Punjab and the like. And I think he made me really care about this singer that I did not know personally. In fact, if someone told me that it was a fictional character, I probably would have believed him. So I felt really connected to this performance, even having no previous awareness of the real person. So I found that to be really just a three-dimensional, empathetic, and compelling performance in Amar Singh Chamkila. So I was just saying today that I think Amar Singh Chamkila should have been pushed for, crossover international audiences. 'Cause I think it's that strong of a film, and really just uniquely made, start to finish.
Actually, I agree, and that's a good point. I wonder if a movie like that, if it went to say a Cannes Film Festival or Venice Film Festival, how those Western critics would have reacted to it.
Yeah.
It does have that uh, quality. Salam,
So for mine, number seven, right? Yeah.
six. Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
six.
seven. Sorry,
Um.
seven. I'm confused now. Yeah,
Okay.
number seven.
It's okay.
No, number
Number
six.
seven.
Sorry, number
I'm.
seven was Parineeti of my number six. Apologies. Yeah.
Number six. Okay. So number six, I'm going to pick Ariana Grande in Wicked. Similar to Manish, I had almost no idea about this movie, and I wasn't very excited to go watch it. I was just going going out with a friend, and we just decided to watch this movie. So I had no expectation, especially with the way the film looked on in the trailer and the promos and all those things. It didn't look very exciting, and I didn't know about the musical itself. I watched Wizard of Oz, but I've never read anything about the Wicked musical, stage musical. So I went to watch the film, and I enjoyed it a lot. It's it's one of my favorite movies of the year. But Ariana Grande, wow, I did not expect that. I've seen her in like an episode of Scream Queens and the small scene she did in Don't Look Up, but I did not know that she had this in her. And like Manish said, she it looked like she was preparing for this role her whole life. And yeah, the comic timing is great. Every quirk of the character, she portrayed it so well on screen. And this one thing that stood out in her performance to me, and I didn't want to say it on Twitter and get dragged for it. I felt a level of sincerity in her performance that I only have seen in two other actors who are not really regarded as great actors. One of them is um Marilyn Monroe, and the other one is Jennifer Lopez. They might not be great actors. They might not always do great films, might not have always done great films, but in every performance of theirs, you could see the sincerity that they really want to do good work and they really care for the character. And that's how I felt when I watched Ariana Grande's performance as Galinda in Wicked. She really cares for her character and she really cares for the movie. And Alphaba, uh, her co-star, which we've seen in the press tour, the wild press tour, they were holding space for each other. Uh, yeah, it's just a very delightful performance, and Popular has just went to the top of my list of songs that I've been listening to in the last month. So amazing, amazing performance, and I totally get all the Oscar buzz surrounding her performance.
It's
Yeah,
funny, the minute you mentioned Marilyn and Jennifer Lopez, the two movies that came to my mind was Some Like It Hot and Hustlers, and the word sincerity is the apt description for both those performances in those movies for those actors. So very, very astute
yeah,
observation there. Leha, over to
love
you
those
for number
movies.
6.
Okay, for number six, I'm gonna do just like a purely like sort of charisma, star quality driven pick. So this is MILF Manor, aka Karina and Tabu in Crew. I they were just okay, so these are not clearly not the hardest performances they've ever done, or this is not like challenging material necessarily, but I know from what Tabu has said, this is the kind of film she loves doing. She loves doing comedies, she loves doing films where she can be sort of like hot and have a good time. And for Bebo though, like this is home territory for her. Just getting to be a star like this. She No one knows how to be a star better than Bebo, and she just gets to. And Kriti is good in this movie too. I'm not like I don't necessarily get Kriti Sanin, but she's good in this. But both of them are so fun together and they have so much chemistry together. Tabu and Bebo, they have that one scene in the I think it's in the trailer where she's like, Bebo's doing her makeup, and Tabu's like, well, it's makeup. It's not a time machine. And like I think like that back and forth. I think every pair of like besties or sisters or whomever, they've had that, like, because that dynamic is so recognizable. And I think it really speaks to Tabu's and Bebo's abilities as actors who haven't really worked that much or at all together to make it feel so instantly familiar, that these are women who've been working together forever. Because if you've been colleagues, right, if you've been co-workers, you have a relationship with each other that's like more familiar than you as adults than you do with your best friends, than you do with your siblings, than with anyone, because you're spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day with these people. You know what I mean? Like that's the body odor you're most familiar with, and they really sell that. They really sell that like bond between them. And the film itself is, it's a good film, it's a fun film, but I think it's them being in it that really elevates it to like, oh yeah, this, I'm glad I came to watch this, because it's such sheer star quality. They're styled fabulously, they look great, they're like filling the screen up. It's like this like full course like thali of two performances. It's like giving that kind of quality when you used to go to watch films, and it used to be like, Akshay and Saif, or like, Salman and Govinda, those kinds of pairs that you don't see in movies anymore, because like all the stars are too pricey to act with each other. They're,
Yeah.
and you don't see that here. They don't have any ego. They're playing off of each other. They're having so much fun, and they're so funny. Bebo's so funny. Tabu is so funny. They're both so hot, and it's just a really really fun film to watch because of them. And I think like the Some Like It Hot reference, it makes so much sense because it's such a similar film in that sense. It's one of those films. It's a crime caper. It's a transport film, and it's very much in that vein. Um, and those films again, you don't see that much of, like films that are like low stakes in a way, but also like you're in it. You're having fun with it. You're rooting for the people, even though they're not perfect people. They're like criminals, so to speak. But Tabu and Bibu, you're like, yeah, they did nothing wrong. They could have killed those people and I'd have been fine, and you go along with it. So yeah, so
Yeah, yeah, they're
they're
exempt from everything. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah. And interesting because Tabu has done 5 movies with Karisma Kapoor and they've all been big hits. And for her to do that now with her younger sister Karina is just amazing. This What an actor and what a star and what an enduring career for Tabu.
Yeah, and I have to point out here that these two might be the longest, the most enduring, like top heroine careers in Hindi cinema. Like
Yes, yes.
Tabu is still like like she's actually more profitable now than she's ever been. Bhul
Bin,
Bhulaiya
yes.
2 came out just a couple of years ago. Drishyam 2 came out a couple of years ago. These are some of her biggest
Andhadhun,
hits.
yeah.
Crew
Yeah.
made twice the amount of money Badi Mian Chote Mian made. Now, this is a fact. And I want to point this out because a clip was going viral on Twitter where Akshay Kumar and Karina were doing an interview together several years ago, where Akshay was like, when heroines make the kind of money that heroes do on their films, they can be paid the same amount. Okay, Akshay Kumar, where are you now? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
Yeah. And my request to Akshay Kumar is wherever you are, stay there because we don't want you back. My number 6 is Ray Fiennes in Conclave. I really, really love this movie a lot, and Ray Fiennes is so good. He's consistently been a very good actor throughout his career. But in this movie, he sells it. Like it's a go for broke performance. There's such sincerity, there's such vulnerability, and such earnestness to his performance that it's just and even in the ending, like there's a revelation and he's just and like it's kind of silly and it's not really well done, but he's believing in it. He really genuinely looks that gullible and innocent like the character is. So I have a lot of love for Ray Fiennes. He's tipped to win the Oscar for Best Actor. We'll see. I don't know, but he'll definitely get a nomination. He's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant in this movie. So now we're coming in the top five. Manish, top five for you. What's your number fifth pick?
Sorry, before I get there, I do have to leave at 7:15 absolute latest. Um, So, FYI, sorry, I did not know this would be this long,
No,
so I did not plan properly. Sorry about that.
no, it's okay.
Okay, number five for me,
Sorry, so just so I know, how much more time do you have? Because I wouldn't know
like
7:15. No.
let's say 45 minutes.
Oh, maybe done before that, way before
Okay,
that.
great.
Sure.
For me, my number five, I have Bridget Lundy Payne from I Saw the TV Glow. Uh, and this movie really, again, took me by surprise. I had heard a lot about it, and I thought it would be a very typical horror movie. But what I found was a really deeply emotional and um, cathartic and just beautiful story about identity and memory and nostalgia and fandom. Bridget Lundy Payne's performance really stands out to me because I think she does a lot of heavy lifting in the film. You know, I think the showpiece of the film is her monologue that comes through, and it's one of those monologues where you feel like you're watching what she's saying. Even though it's just her on the screen. Yeah, it's just a really surprising and unsettling film, and I think she really anchors it quite well. And it's just it's a really good movie that I feel like more people need to see. So I would recommend. I saw the TV Glow for the performances.
Cool. Salam?
So for my number five, I pick Naomi Scott for Smile 2. So, when the first Smile came out, I watched it. It was all right. I didn't find it scary or riveting or whatever. So when the sequel came out, I was not very enthusiastic. But then I read the reviews and the raves for her performance, and I watched the movie. She is fantastic, and but the character is such a sad character. She doesn't have a single, almost no happy moment in the movie. Right from the beginning, she's suffering throughout the whole movie, and that's such a when I watched the movie, it was so scary to me that to think about the kinds of places Naomi had to go mentally to play this character, because there is not even a minute of joy in the character in the movie for her character. She's suffering more than Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and Naomi gave it her all. It's a she makes the film better with her performance. Without the kind of commitment that she puts in for the character and the performance, I don't think the film would have worked. And there are so many moments in the movie that are scary because of her performance, not because of how it was written or how it was staged. I mean, those things are good as well, but her performance definitely elevates the scary moments in the movie. And yeah, it's not easy to give a horror movie for performance without making it like capital P performance, but she does it with such care for the character and also commitment that you 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 can't help but root for her character. And it's so sad that Naomi and horror performances in general do not get recognized in the awards conversation. But this is one of my favorite performances of the year, and I'm still thinking about this movie and the performance, and I still feel really really sad for what her character goes through in the movie. And
That's
yeah,
an
it's a
inspired pick.
great horror movie of the year.
You. Leha, number five.
Okay, so I'm gonna veer away from like a lead performance and go with like a slightly smaller performance in a film. Manoj Pawa in Jigra is gonna be my pick for number five. Um, Manoj Pawa is one of my favorite character actors. He and his wife Seema Pawa are both just incredibly warm presences on screen. Um, and they make everything they're in better by dint of just their presence. I think they're so human and so humane. But Manoj Pawa often has to play these kind of almost like stock comic characters, like sweater uncle characters, I call them. But in this, he doesn't. His character has a lot of gravitas, even though it is a very funny character. And he really like sinks his teeth into it. He has this beautiful voice, and this role really allows him to use that voice because he's playing this retired kind of like gangster kind of person, and you really get to feel that authority, even though he has a lot of funny lines throughout. But the film itself is very somber, and he both leavens that and still fits into that kind of the sort of heavier, darker tonality of that film. It's never jarring to see him. And then his last scene is just a thing of like old school masala Hindi film beauty. It's one of those like humne to ji li apni zindagi, like self sacrifice, that kind of moment. And you need an actor to sell that kind of moment in these times, like especially in a movie as muted as Jigra. Like Jigra is aiming to do this very tricky thing of like balancing like these more contemporary passion for cinema type sensibilities with like throwback 70s masala Prakash Mehra sensibilities. And I think Manoj Pawa really finds that, and that's why like I really wanted to take this spot in the list to highlight him and just kind of give him some love. He's amazing. He's
Oh,
fantastic.
so well deserved love for him. Terrific actor. Agree with him. At number five, I'm just going to, in the spirit of Leha's comment of let movie stars be movie stars and not everybody be Ompuri, Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in Fall Guy, two of the most charismatic stars, actors on the planet. I love both of them. Screen presence, good looks, charm, acting abilities. What's there not to like? If you haven't watched Fall Guy, do yourself a favor and watch it just for these two. They are they just burn the house down, I feel. All right, we're now getting into the top four. Manish, what's your number four?
For number four, I have Kirsten Dunst in Civil War, which is a movie that came out here in the U.S. in April, and haven't heard much about it since then. But it's a movie that I still have in my top 10, and have still a lot of affection for. And I think a lot of that is Kirsten Dunst's lead performance. She's a very talented actor in general and has done many great roles, but I don't think that I really have seen her as emotionally stripped down and um, like hardened as she is in Civil War, as she plays a war photographer who has basically seen it all and is pretty much like losing a lot of she's trying to, I guess, hold on to her humanity in the face of all these horrors that she's seeing. And it's a really just textured, like unsettling, really emotional performance. And I feel like when I saw the film, I was like hoping that there would be some kind of awards push for her, because I think it's such a uh just such a beautiful performance, and such a in a movie that is really hard to watch at times and is really um unsettling and depressing and confusing at times. But it's she's just so, I think, just so real in the film. And so um like there's a scene where she's in a shop and is trying on a dress and being photographed herself, and it's such a it's a moment that speaks volumes for how rare it probably is in her life. And so yeah, I mean, I really do think Civil War is an interesting film, and I think Kirsten Dunst's performance is quite remarkable in that film.
Awesome. Salam, your number four?
So at number four, I actually have Diljit Dosanjh And I'm glad, Vic, earlier you gave a shout out to Pariniti Chopra. She's fantastic, and I hope she gets to do more such parts. Yeah, and speaking about Diljit, what a performance and what a movie this is. Like Manish said, it would have definitely been deserving of being sent to the Oscars. And I'm still mad that this movie got just dumped on to Netflix
Net-
instead of having a theatrical release, because it would have definitely done great business. I think it's a great movie, great comeback for Imtiaz Ali. I think the soundtrack of the year for me is from this film. And Diljit Dosanjh, uh, yeah, he's just fantastic. Manish spoke about him earlier, like how he didn't know that about Chamkila as the artist, the real person. Similarly, I had no idea. I did some know things about him, um and why he was killed and such things. But then I watched the movie, the way Diljit played him, so remarkable with such just there's just enough playfulness in the way he portrayed Chamkila without taking away um, his seriousness or his uh, the kind of humanity that he shows throughout his songs. He doesn't make him a vulgar person, even though his songs might be considered vulgar to some people. The character itself, the person itself, himself, was a very charming and genuine and sweet person. And the way that Diljit portrayed him in the movie, with great compliment from Pariniti Chopra, it was just a. I think it's a star-making performance for Diljit. And if this would have been I don't know, a Hollywood movie, he would have been like one of the contenders for the Academy Award or something.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
it's that good.
Yeah, agreed. Ma'am, what do you have for us at number four?
At number four, I am gonna go with Demi Moore for the substance, um, which is, I guess, pretty predictable as a pick, but I just couldn't not. I grew up really, really loving Demi Moore, even though, like, I think I, I came of age after, I think, her sort of peak, but I'd read a lot about her and I knew that she was this massive, like, star, you know. And there was already this question about can Demi Moore act, and does she deserve her $12 million paycheck for GI Jane and all of these things. And I used to find all of those things fascinating, and I love an actress like that who like gets people. J Lo is such a good example of that, right? Like the kind of star who gets people riled up about the can she act question, and usually they can. J Lo can act, Marilyn Monroe could act. Demi Moore can clearly act. This performance is again so sad, so heartbreaking. I think every girl I've talked to, every queer person I've talked to, every trans woman I've talked to, they've talked about that one scene where she keeps going back to the bathroom and putting more and more makeup on. Now that scene could easily have felt slapstick, or like even like a moment of kind of desperate, kind of like a desperate kind of sympathy grab from the audience. It doesn't. It feels horrific. It feels sad in a way that's very visceral, and it feels true. And I think that's because Demi Moore is Demi Moore, right? She's lending her the text of her star persona to that moment, and she's giving her beauty to it, and the fact that people have talked about her beauty and the fading thereof and all of those things for the last 50 years or whatever. She's lending all of that text to that moment, and like her acting chops. You see that the ferality in her eyes, and like the muscles contorting in her face. Like I was afraid she was going to like literally strip the skin off of her face. And but I've also felt that. So for her to like capture like my physical sense memory, like through the screen. Like that's acting. You can't question those chops. And she's at that place throughout the film. Like this is a film that never flags in terms of its energy, and she's giving that throughout. And it's just I don't think this is a film, like it's in the awards conversation, but I don't think she's going to go all the way, because horror films, this is not a film that voters in, like, I don't know, like fucking retirement communities are gonna like really go for. But I think it should. I think it's a film, it's a performance that really needs to kind of be highlighted. I think it's a performance that is going to be remembered for years to come. So yeah, very, very, very into this performance.
No, absolutely. That scene of the makeup, she perfectly captures her desperation and her frustration, and that's so vividly captured on screen. My number four, we are Anura fans in the house. It's Yorov Borisov, and he is so good in this movie. There's moments where the camera just cuts to his face reacting to Annie and what she says and what she does, and they are priceless. And even in that scene when Annie just uses a very derogatory slur towards him, he's just so good in not understanding the joke, but yet being in the joke. I love this performance. I do hope he gets an Oscar nomination for this one. All right, Manish, number three. We are right to the top three now.
For me, number three, I have Zendaya in Challengers. I do not have a, um, I do not have a lot of problems with Josh O'Connor or Mike Face in the movie, but for me, I think Zendaya rises above the two of them, and I think uh, this is a this is her this is her movie, right? She's with the she's the poster, and I think her performance is very funny. All the way that she, is bickering with Josh O'Connor or degrading Mike Face is both funny and a little scary. And I love that transition she has from hopeful tennis star at the peak at the precipice of a great career to someone who is now forced to live vicariously through these two random guys who can barely play as well as she can. And I feel like her delivery of the dialogue that she has is very funny and biting. And you know I mean I'm a big fan of challengers in general, and I really think that I really can't imagine another actor besides Zendaya in that role, just because of just her presence and just her ability to play this rage that she has. And It's really quite, I think, astonishing for me. So yeah, I have Zendaya. I'm a big fan of the other two guys in the film, of course, but for me, I think I walked away from that movie thinking about Zendaya and Zendaya only.
So, Salam?
Yeah, for my number three, I have Karthi from this Tamil movie called Mayuragan. It's on Netflix if you haven't watched it. It's a really sweet movie about two cousins reconnecting after many years, and one of them not knowing the name of the other character and struggling to, reconnect with him without knowing his name, and he doesn't want to ask him the name because he's scared of offending um, the guy. And Karthi plays the titular character. He's the character is such a sweet character. He doesn't take offense to anything. He just wants to live life, make people around him happy. It's almost a character that's too good to be true. Like you can't find someone like this in real life, but then you want to meet somebody like this in real life because he's that sweet and caring. And he is not an unserious person. He definitely has ambitions, he has aspirations in life, but then he just wants to live life happily. And if you've seen Ponniyin Selvan movies, Karthi has this mischief in the in the way he plays the character in those movies. He has similar kind of mischief in the way he plays the titular character in this movie, Mayor Agan. Um, so he has this typical masculine exterior, the way he's presented in the movie, but then internally he's just a sweetheart, and it's a like typical way of portraying "don't judge a book by its cover" kind of thing in a movie. And the other character is played by Arvind Swamy, who you might have known from his movies with Mani Ratnam. So these two have really great chemistry in the movie, but the movie works so well because of Karthi and the way he plays this character. It's almost offensive how inoffensive this guy is and how well Karthi has played him in the movie. It's just a perfect performance to me, and more people should watch it. It's on Netflix. It's a very conversational movie. There's no plot, so to speak, but and it's quite almost 3 hours long, but it's just a sweet movie. It's just heartwarming, and I love the performance so much.
This is the third movie you have added on my to watch list, Salah. Thank you. I'm going to watch all three
I'm
of them.
sorry.
No, no, thank you. You don't have to be sorry. I like to be informed about stuff that I haven't seen, so it's always good to know. Leah, what's your number three?
My number three is George McKay from The Beast, which is a French film by Bertrand Bonello. So this film stars the divine Leah Seydoux. She's beautiful in this. The film itself is gorgeous. I think my phone has like 70 shots. Like I just took like shots of the screen while I was watching this, just like drunk on how beautiful this film is. But the reason I'm so into George McKay's performance in this film is that this film is almost kind of like a dystopian Om Shanti Om, and he's almost playing like the Shanti Priya character that the protagonist is pursuing across timelines. But one iteration of that is an incel, and I think like a lot of films and a lot of pop culture has tried to address that trope or that archetype, because it's so topical and so on, in a way that's meaningful or interesting, but it's hard to do because people get stuck on the topicality of it, and I think in this film they're like, what if we were to get into how this person is and could be an attractive person, and their isolation gets in the way of them seeing it, gets in the way of them seeing what the possibilities are for them. And that is what life is like, I think, for a lot of people who make choices that cut them off from other people, right? It's not that they have no possibilities, it's not that they aren't attractive. And casting like kind of like this pin-uppy good looking guy like George McKay in that role, and making this really hot woman so into him, culture and things like that
Right.
are not
Yeah.
that interesting to me. And his performance in all of those three timelines is very interesting because he finds like these quiet notes in all of them, but there's also emotional violence that he's sort of navigating, that he's sort of trading in with Leah Seydoux. It's like sort of like it's a two-person performance. I almost feel like this is the tenor that like Joker Folie à Deux was going for and didn't quite hit, which is, I guess, a weird comparison to make. But I really, really loved this film, and I really like this performance. I hope to see more of this guy in movies in leading man roles. I was really impressed with him.
I'm so happy and glad you picked Beast, because I thought I was the only one who watched this movie, but I'm so happy to know someone else has watched it, and I share those feelings with you. My number three is Kieran Culkin in The Real Pain. I love this movie so much, and I love his performance so much in this movie. I know everyone's talking about he's just doing another Succession, another similar type of role, but he is so good. He's heartbreaking, heart aching, vulnerable, charming, likable, unlikable, indifferent. There's such a full body performance in this movie, and he's grappling with pain in real time, and he just doesn't know what to do with the pain that he has in him. He captures it so beautifully. The last scene of this movie where he's sitting alone in the airport just thinking will stay with me for a very, very long time. So I think he will win Best Actor, but I hope he does. Best Supporting Actor, but we'll see. All right, Manish, number two.
For number two, I also have Josh Hartnett in Trap. And you already talked about him, and I think you make a lot of really great points, and I don't have much to say further. I What I do love about this movie is that he is so on M. Night Shyamalan's wavelength of just this like really off kilter performance, um, and it's just so like everything he does is just so weird, and it works so well with the camera work and the editing and the directing style and the writing. So yeah, it was a really, I think, like that's another movie that I wish were being talked about more in terms of awards, because it's a really it's a high wire act in my opinion. It's not easy to do. But yeah, always happy to shout out an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Absolutely. And regardless of what sexual orientation one is, when Josh Hartnett takes his shirt off at the end of the movie, the theater gasps. It's just watch it for that shot, if not anything. Salam, what's number two for you?
So for my number two, I would pick Sai Pallavi in this Tamil movie called Amaran. Um, I don't know if you want to add that to your watch list also,
It's added
Vic.
four movies.
Yeah.
Goat. Yeah, sorry, go. Yeah.
It's a decent movie. It's out on Netflix now, so you can catch it there. It's a decent movie. It's marketed as this biopic of this army officer, Major Mukund, and about his wife. So that's how it was marketed as a biopic. But then when I watched the film, it was told through the point of view of Sai Pallavi's character in Indu Rebecca Varghese. So from there, you get the sense of this is a love story. She's telling the love story. But then as the movie progresses, it becomes more of his story than their story. So not so much of a love story. It's just that how she's grappling with the relationship, being left at home alone with their kid while he's out in the battlefield. So the movie kind of loses focus from this love story that it was trying to tell initially. However, Sai Pallavi, she does not falter. For me personally, she makes the film for me. Whenever she's not on the screen, I don't care about the movie. I don't care about the man fighting for their country. I'm sorry if this offends anybody, but yeah, I don't care about the battle scenes, fighting the terrorist scenes. Uh, I'm only interested for the scenes when she'll come back on the screen, because she gets very little scenes with the titular character himself, Major Mukund, played by Shivakarthikeyan, who is impressive. Never been a fan of him, but he's quite impressive in this movie. But she gets very little moments with him as the movie goes on, but she makes a meal out of those moments. She imbues so much warmth and charm in those few scenes that you couldn't help but feel the love. It's almost palpable, the love that she has for this man. And there's this one particular scene in the movie where they stop talking for months, and then he comes back to her house, her family house, and the parents are actually opposing their relationship. And then he comes back to see her after many months, and then she just comes out. She has this breakdown where she just grabs her stomach, her tummy, and then she starts to cry. Those kind of acting, you that kind of acting you can't write on paper. It just comes out of an actor who truly knows what they're doing and care for their character and want to nail that moment. So Sai Pallavi in Amaran is amazing. If you watch the movie, just watch her scenes. She's great. There's one scene where she kind of does over the top acting, but still not bad, not bad. But the other scenes are, I don't care about the rest of the movie. She is the film for me.
Well put. Leah, over to you for your number two.
So there's like a lot of performances that I think I would have put on this list, but because they're covered and they've been spoken about so eloquently, like Ray Fiennes in Conclave probably would have been my top two. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about this film called Stress Positions, which is this tiny little independent film that came out this year. And I'm going to talk about Theda Hamill, who is both the director and the one of the leads in the film. I'd say like maybe like one of the main supporting characters. And this isn't like a performance in the sense that it's not like super transformative or things like that, the kind of things that we look for in like Oscar bait performances or performances that people like talk about a lot on Twitter or whatever. um it's just really funny, like really really funny. So this is one of those indie films that came out like sort of in the summer. It's on Hulu, I think right now. John Ely, who's really funny, is in it if you've watched any of his comedy specials. And it's one of those little Brooklyn, like New Yorky films. And she plays this complete asshole in it. She's this white trans woman who is just going around creating trouble everywhere she goes, just being a complete dick, I guess, choice of words, but to like everybody, just create starting situations, like being a total monster, just everywhere she goes. And it's not the kind of character you see, like if you're thinking about something like Amelia Perez or something like that, where we're talking about representation and like, complex, nuanced portrayals. So this is not that. And this is like, oh my God, this bitch crazy, like, but we all have those friends, and no matter what someone's identity is, we should empower people to be assholes. So then afterwards we can be like, that
Yes.
asshole started shit in my life, which made my life worse, but also more interesting. So now I have this story to tell at this party. So Theda Hamill does that really well in this film because there's such a liberated quality to the way she occupies these rooms, these tiny sort of New York rooms and yards and things. Her body language is so like flung out, um, and just her face is so elastic. Her reactions are so unexpected. It's just a really fun, really sardonic, really witty, really strange performance. And she's also the director. I think she also hosts a really funny podcast with Macy Rodman, which my friend listens to and has recommended. So there's that. So look this up. This film is called Stress Positions. I really enjoyed it. I didn't know what I was going in for. I liked it, and I thought she was very good in it. And it's a very good looking film too.
You just gave us the promo line, empower assholes. That's going to be the line for the promo for this episode. My number two is Demi Moore in The Substance. You've already said what I wanted to say. I hope she gets an Oscar nomination because if she doesn't, Lana to all those 9,000 Academy Award members who vote for these nominations. Drum roll number one. Manish, what's your number one pick?
Well, this is a little anticlimactic, but I also have Demi Moore and The Substance as my number one. I don't have much more to add. I will say that my favorite scene, I think the scene that I found the hardest to watch is when she is having when she's cooking all that food in the apartment and just making a huge mess. That stressed me out, but I think she was very funny and very
It was
sad
very funny.
in equal parts. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more I can say about Demi Moore in the substance, but I think it's just a powerhouse performance, and I think one that is equal parts hilarious and sad and infuriating and horrific. And yeah, I mean, it's that's one of my favorite movies of the year, and I think she is just absolutely divine in it in all aspects. So that's Demi Moore is my number one. I can't get her out of my mind.
We are spiritual brothers, Manish. I told you. It's like it's uncanny how much we both like the same stuff.
Yeah.
Salam, what's your number one?
Not to be even more anticlimactic, but Demi Moore in substance.
Yes.
Yeah, again, a performance that I could not stop thinking about, and Leha already spoke very well about the performance earlier. It's just a brave, sad, heartbreaking performance, and I was so impressed and horrified with the way she played the character and the things that Elizabeth goes through, especially in the scene where she gets ready for the date, right? I was so scared that she's going to rip apart her face with the way she moves her hands across it. And there's another scene in the movie where she tries to bring back Sue to life, and she says this one line, "You're the best part of myself," and that just broke me. That's such a sad thing, and it's a profoundly sad movie, but also very entertaining and weird and gross. And Demi Moore just gives it her all. Amazing performance, and I truly hope that she goes all the way till the Oscars for
I hope
this
so
movie
too.
and this performance.
I hope so too. Leha, number one.
Okay, number one. I mean, honorable mentions aside to Alia Bhatt in Jigra, to Ray Fiennes, Isabella Rossellini in Conclave, to Tripti Dimri's Cholis in Bhul Bhulaiya 3, the true ghost disappearing right before our eyes throughout the film. Um, but my true number one is Mikey Madison in Honora.
No
Yeah.
shit, that's my number one too. It is Mikey Madison and Nora.
So I guess we can do this together, Vic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do this together. So Mikey Madison in Honora, my favorite performance of the year because it's so unexpected, so elastic, so on. You just don't know what she's gonna do the next moment, but it coheres so beautifully from moment to moment. This, I think, in a year where life has just felt like unexpected in the most shitty ways. I think everything Mikey Madison does in that movie really captures that energy of like, I am desperately trying to hold on to some amount of control and also dignity, and also try to look cute at the same time. um, but seriously speaking, it's such an original performance. It's easy to take that role, like the stripper with the heart of gold thing, and tread the same notes, tread the Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman notes, tread like sort of like a Barbara Stanwyck, sort of go that route, or like a Marilyn Monroe route, or like a Shirley MacLaine route. But she finds something so fresh and punk and I don't know, like the fact that like you can really tell that she co-authored this role with Sean Baker because it really feels like it's coming from somewhere inside of her. Um, like even the little details, like the glitter in her hair, the way she wears that lingerie, like the way she moves, the way she tosses that coat and the mom's face, like just the lines of her body, like the way she extends her limbs, her eyes like sunken in that face. She's like kind of like a Disney princess after like a bad trip. Like it's just she's just so good and original and unprecedented. I think that's the word I'd use for Mikey Madison in this film. Like unprecedented. I just love her
Agree with
so much.
everything. Yeah, no, no, agree with everything you say. The thing I love, love, love about this movie, it's a sympathetic look at sex work and sex workers. But more importantly, her performance doesn't make you feel sorry for her. She's not a victim. She's not someone who's after money. She's someone who's, as you rightly said, trying to make sense of it all. And she's trying her best to do it. And that last scene with that tear in her eye, oh my God, it ripped me apart. So she will win the Oscar. I hope she does. She's brilliant in this movie. And if you haven't watched Honora, I strongly recommend that you do. All right. I somehow feel, if I may say so, the four of us have some cinematic DNA tissue with us because it looks like there's a little bit of, or maybe even more connections there.
Overlap.
So it's. I really really appreciate all three of you to take the time and come on this podcast. Manish, I know you have to rush. I have to do a quick rapid fire with Leha and Salam. Do you have time to stay, or if you have to rush, that's all good.
I can stay for yeah, maybe
All right.
another
So we'll
yeah for
start
a little
with
bit.
you with a rapid fire.
Okay.
This is to pay homage to our favorite Gunkle. So I've taken his from his show. All right, Manish, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Pick one: Sri Devi or Madhuri,
Madhuri.
Vertigo or Lamhe.
Vertigo.
Kill, marry, hook up. Varun Dhawan, Kiara Advani, or Sanjeev Kumar? Because you said Sanjeev Kumar, well, you had a crush on him.
Oh my God. Marry him, of course. I would probably well, okay, all things considered, I'll probably kill Varun Dhawan and hook up with Kiara Advani because I love her so much.
Okay. The one thing you love most about your own podcast, Bollywood Drafts,
Oh my gosh, my wonderful guests, of course.
and the one most challenging aspect of your own podcast.
Um, for me, it's God. The most challenging part is when people DM me or reply to me angry about what my guests do, and I'm like, talk to them. I
I'm
have no
guilty.
control.
I'm guilty of that. Your favorite holiday destination?
um, oh gosh, I recently went to Thailand, so I'll say Thailand.
Okay. The last book you read?
Um, Atomic Habits, which is a therapist recommended book, which has been very, very helpful and life changing.
A movie that changed your life?
Um, Life of Pi.
A movie performance that changed your life?
Shorty Ryan Devdas.
And the one thing you're looking most forward to in 2025?
Um, oh God. Um, I think I'm looking forward to the. I'm looking forward to like the new movies that are going to come out, and just excited for what it holds for us.
So that was a good one. Manish, Salam, are you ready? Pick one, Mani Ratnam or
Yes, let's
A.R.
go.
Rahman. Okay, sorry. You have to pick one from these two. Mani Ratnam or A.R. Rahman.
Oh, oh, oh my God. Um, A.R. Rahman, I think, is my king.
Uh, would you be best friends with Saba in Air Mushkil or Nandini from the Pullian Sullivan movies?
Um, Best friends. Oh, oh God. I think with Nandini, I would just want to be her gay best friend and just
And
does
scheme.
all the work for her. Yeah,
Oh,
do the scheming and stuff.
brilliant. Kill, marry, or hook up? Abhishek Bachchan, Jaya Bachchan, Amitabh Bachchan.
That's so evil. Oh my God.
You are the perfect person
Oh,
for this question. Yeah.
oh my God. Oh, why are you doing this to me? Oh God. Do I have to pick?
Yes, you have
I'll
to
kill probably all
kill
of
one
them.
person, marry one
Okay.
person, and hook up one person.
Kill Abhishek Bachchan, free
Mhm.
Ash, Hashtag free hash. Marry, I think Jaya, and then hook up with Amitabh, I guess.
Fair point. See, it wasn't that hard. One thing,
I don't want to do these things, but yeah,
one thing you love about Aishwarya. One thing, just one thing. I know there are hundreds, but pick one.
it's it's too hard to pick one. Um,
One thing you hate about
I think the
Aishwarya.
one thing that I love about her, it's just how she makes me feel. She just makes me feel very happy whenever I see her on screen, in movies or in appearances, interviews, everything. One thing I
That's
hate about
wonderful.
her is she's a terrible interviewee, especially of late. She does not answer the questions that she's asked. You could give her two
If
mark questions, she'd give you 10-mark answer, but end up getting zero.
Oh my God, that's so true. If you had an opportunity to steal all her anarkalis, would you steal it and whom would you sell it to?
I'll steal them and burn them along with her hair straighteners. Or if I need to send it to someone, I don't know, Abhishek Bachchan.
Fair enough. The movie that changed your life,
Kannathil Muttamital by Mani Ratnam.
a movie
It's a
performance that
Tamil movie
changed your
from
life.
2020.
Oh, that's an amazing movie.
Movie
If anyone
performance,
who's not watched it, please go watch that movie. It's brilliant, brilliant.
yeah,
Um,
it is. A movie performance that changed my life. Cliche. Aishwarya Rai in jeans changed
oh,
my life.
amazing. The thing you're looking most forward to in 2025.
I'm really looking forward to watching Baby Girl and Nicole Kidman in it. Um, in life in general, I'm looking forward to sleeping more. I just want to sleep more.
All right, Salam, thank you. Leha, are you ready?
Thank you.
I was born ready.
Awesome. Pick who is the best actress between the two, Shabana Azmi or Meryl Streep?
Shivana asked me.
Kill, marry, hook up. Siddharth Malhotra, Josh O'Connor, Ryan Gosling.
Kill, marry, hook up. Kill Ryan Gosling. Marry Siddharth Malhotra. Hook up with Josh O'Connor. No, marry Josh O'Connor. Hook up with Siddharth Malhotra. What am I and Siddharth Malhotra going to talk about?
Okay. Your top three celebrity crushes.
My top three celebrity crushes. Like alive.
Alive, yeah, alive,
Okay.
dead.
Okay. So like crushes. Wow. This is a tricky one. Young Vinod Khanna. Um, then maybe I want to say let's see Paul Mescal, a pretty typical answer. And mm, mm, let's say this is hard. You know, he's having such a hard time of it. Let's say Sid Malhotra, yeah. You know,
Okay. A movie that changed your life.
a movie that changed my life. Lamhe, absolutely.
A
Yeah.
movie performance that changed your life.
Peter V. Lamhe.
Okay. Who is a better actor, Ranveer Singh or Ranbir Kapoor?
Oh, Ranveer Singh. This is like what? What?
Your top three favorite directors.
My top three favorite directors would be, let's see, Hitchcock, Pedro Almodovar, and Yash Chopra.
Okay. Now, if you were given an all expenses paid trip to go on a holiday with three friends of yours or three people you wanted to, whom would you pick?
Three people I wanted to, people like anyone in the world.
Anyone. Yeah.
Young Vinod Khanna, Paul Mescal, and Siddharth Malhotra.
Oh God, it's not gonna be fun then. Well, say the plane crashes and you had to save one of them for those three, who would them be?
The youngest one, like more longevity, no? Paul Mescal.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask if the same question and put Salam and Manish, but I thought that would be too cruel to do that for you to pick one of those two. Okay.
Oh, who's younger
Um,
between you? How to maximize utility.
that's true. One advice you would give to someone who can be a better critic or a better consumer of art or cinema in general.
Be less self conscious.
And if a biopic was being made on your life, which actor would you like to play your role?
Which actor would I like to play my role? Huh. Um, this is, oh wow. I guess this would be controversial in terms of, you know, Itpal stuff, but Sonam Kapoor.
Sonam Kapoor. That's an
Yeah,
interesting pick.
yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Let's like really go for it. Let's get like haters mad.
Athiya Shetty, what happened?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Ati Shetty would be great too, but she's retired, right? So
She's retired? Okay. All right. Well, thank you. This was fun. Unfortunately, I do not have a hamper, and even if I did to do DHL or ship it across to you, any of your
but
locations would
who
be a
won?
nightmare.
You have to tell us who won.
I would say Silam, just because the kill marry hookup, he did good with that.
Well earned, well
Uh,
earned.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, all three of
Yeah,
you, for
this
doing
was very
this.
fun.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate all three of you coming on this podcast and giving me so much time. This is the longest episode I've ever shot, so it'll be fun. And I do hope that one day in some city or in some bar in the world, the four of us get to hang out and discuss movies in person. It may not happen, it may happen, but it's always, always good to hope. Congratulations on all your achievements, all three of you. You'll continue to be the informed voices in cinema. And I personally learn a lot from all three of you. So thank you for that. All the very best. Have a great Christmas and a happy new year. And thank you so much for doing this. I cannot be more happy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us. If you haven't already, kindly please subscribe to our Spotify channel and our YouTube channel on Let's Talk series. We are also on Apple Music and Amazon. And if you want to follow us on Instagram, we are on Let's Talk Melb. And as always, we welcome any feedback, suggestions, and comments. So we look forward to hearing from you.